This week, we're rebuilding, not fixing, rebuilding our old irrigation system. Let me show you the tips and tricks I've learned over 30 years working with this system. Stay tuned. Red tape on there because it didn't work well last year or this spring, so there's too many leaks in this line, so the water doesn't even get to the end. We'll have to go through and fix some of these big leaks because that just means by the time it gets to the end, it's used up most of its pressure. So that's how we've rebuilt this one. And this is really rebuilt. This isn't fixing anymore. This is completely rebuilding this irrigation system. So one of the things about using these posts, we transferred the wires from the old posts onto these, and we put these posts in inclined. One of the key ways of doing it is we dug the hole at an angle, and in the hole we supported it with two areas of rocks. So we have on this side of the post here, we have a big rock in the ground, and then down in the bottom of the hole on the left side of the post, looking this way, we have also a big rock. So the goal is that when we pull on these posts, that post will lean on the bottom against the rock and on the top against the rock. So it's really, it can't go because the rock acts as an anchor. And so this way we can really pull hard on the wire on this post and it actually just locks into place. And that's how we can tension these wires. And yeah, they're tight. They're way tighter than they were before rebuilding. A lot of sagging pipes. And it allows the line to run without sagging. And anytime there's a sag, it's a place where the water kind of accumulates, the sediments accumulate a bit, and it just makes it that much easier if we decide to run animals in here, that the animals will hook anywhere the pipe is sagging. So this way, by setting it up this high, we are actually able to run sheep in here and they won't damage it at all, because in the past, this isn't an emitter, this is actually a goof plug, but the sheep would be going, when it was sagging down low, the sheep would come, and if their wool caught in the emitter, sheep don't go back, they don't back up. So they want to go forward, so they go forward and they would break off. And we had to repair a whole lot of emitters in here because of having sheep, and especially because the line was not tight and keep the pipe in the air. It also takes a lot less time for water to run on a straight line. So we got it straight at the bottom, and I say bottom because there's a little bit of a hill here. So it runs straight, and then there's one section where it actually comes back up, and then from there on it runs straight. And here from the last posts, because we're near the end, so from the last post we actually have it inclined down a little bit because it does come down the hill, and that's all right to have the water kind of rushing down here to go down to the end. And that's been a big improvement. This is a great job that was done. And in here it was just different because of the trees, so we used the trees to anchor the lines, and some of them have anchors. So we have two types. We have a floating anchor, which is basically a fencing insulator, and we drive this in with a screw. The line is in here and it floats, it can move. It's tight, it won't move much, but it can float. And other trees where we actually anchored it right into the tree. And the reason is just that we can hold the line tight from that point on. Is there one here? Floating, floating, floating. Floating. Oh, here's anchored. So here we actually drove a fencing staple in and we make it hold against the tree. And I've seen enough of these that I know that, well, we might have damaged a little bit the bark in one little spot here. With time, the wire will actually grow right over that wire. the tree will grow right over the wire. That's really what we do want in this case, and that really fixes that. That wire is not gonna get loose.
No.
There. That. The best way would be to put it on a post tight, but other than replacing all the posts, we're using some trees because we've got a lot of them here. And a few posts we left, we didn't cut them. So the goal for these posts is long term. We will have a wire running up there, same setup as this. A wire and the pipe. We have lots of this pipe still. So we're gonna do a setup like this. And on this, we can attach spray emitters. So what we'll do is we'll run it up in the air at the height of that post. And so that will be above all the trees. And there will be an emitter spraying above each tree so that we'll be able to spray the orchard using an overhead system far quicker than going through and driving with the tractor. This will be planted with more trees to fill in. Not more apple trees though, but more diversity. Enough of these apples, and we've got lots of them. And this is kind of the, you might be able to see, this is kind of the crest of the hill, the peak, the high point. So you see this point, this post is actually the inflection point. So from this post on, now it goes downhill. It goes downhill for 70 feet, one post's worth, and then it flattens out and then it levels off down there. So that's how we've rebuilt this one. And this is really rebuilt. This isn't fixing anymore. This is completely rebuilding this irrigation system, because that's enough of having them sagging and hanging and in the way. A lot of posts were replaced. These are 40-year-old posts. They were put in around 1980, and so they're done. You can see how much, and the most, see when a post, this is the part in the ground, a post in the ground, this is the part here that takes the brunt of decay. It's the place where the topsoil is. So we'll try to use these in a more decorative fashion. We have a few projects we can try. We started with the parking, and so that's one way. And then just replacing them. So we put in a bunch of posts to replace these, and they're going to be there for hopefully another, well, those were there for 40 years. So if these are here for 40 years, they're not going to be needed anymore, because I hope to put in some nitrogen fixers in here, and they will eventually even replace those high posts. So the goal is here to have nitrogen fixers act as supports, act as posts, and they'll be what will hold these wires long term. So here we're at the end of a line. See how it sags, and now as they pull, it raises up. So I'll just show you how we tighten at the end at a post. So at this step, what we have to do is take off the old, actually this one was already transferred onto a leaning post, just as a temporary, probably because it was leaning on the ground or sitting on the ground. So we got to take off the old one to reset. Now at this stage, to reset it, the trick is we find the height that we want, and then to tack one fence staple as a guide, and that helps a lot. First it determines our height, and then that will be what allows us to tighten it properly. And the tightening is a little, if you could tighten with a tractor, that would be good, but I'll show you how we tighten it with fencing staples, fencing pliers. Leverage is really your friend. So what we try to do here is we put these fencing pliers so they can grab the wire, and they help to tighten, and we loosen, we push each time. That's it. and with the others holding the wire as we tighten. The post is even coming up a bit, which is fine.
Ok, je pense que c'est bon.
Okay.
Marteau.
So now that we've got it nice and snug, then that one staple, we use it, tighten it down. So now we know that now the wire isn't going to come back on us, at least. And in this case, this was probably a wire that had broken, so we don't have enough to go around, or do we?
Ouais.
We
Yeah,
like to go
that's
around
it.
ideally twice, but this one is short, so we'll go around just once. There's probably better systems. I know gripples are a really nice way of tightening. There are tools now and ways of doing it. And then that's a tighter setup. Lunchtime! The goal is to have the wire above and the pipe below it. That's the best way to do it. And then these, we use 3 ways. So zip ties is one way. That's the actual way I like it done, so that the attachment is at the top. Ideally, we have the wire above. And so zip ties is one. This is another method. We made these, we call them heart clips, because when they haven't been put on, they actually look like a heart. These are the heart clips. That's why we call them heart clips, because they kind of look like a heart. So we put these needle nose pliers in. Pinch them closed, and then they hold. So there's the heart. Homemade, but they last a long time. So because they have a peak part on top, that's where the wire goes, and this goes underneath. So we make these ourselves. We got lots of wire, and these are gonna last for years and years. They're good. They do move a little bit. They're not quite, we really have to use pliers and pinch these tight, and then they'll hold better. And a third way we have are these wire twisties. So they're used for bags often, but they're often also used for this. They're okay. This one might be 5 or 10 years old. They eventually rust and fall off. So I much rather have something like the heart clips, which really will be around that'll be a long time. So that's how we attach it. And this is really the goal, you see? Nice and tight, snug up against the wire. And then it's very easy to come back. And anywhere we have a tree, we can pop an emitter in. The goal is to have 1 emitter per tree. You could put 2, but we have 1, and especially in an area like this. So if we put 1 for this tree, so we'd put it in the middle, and then we'd want to have 1 for the next tree, so we'd put it in the middle. And so basically each tree can get water from both sides. Here's an old style emitter. Now these are 40 years old, these emitters. They were made with a lot of carbon black, so they really don't degrade nearly as quickly, but they are definitely something that can catch. So if you're walking by and you hook on with your clothes, they will break off by now because they're getting a little brittle. So that's the oldest style of emitters. And this is the newest one. They're called button emitters. And they're kind of a low profile so that there's less ability to actually hook on. And they should write on them how many liters per hour they provide of water. So you want to know how much your tree or your plant needs, and then give them that amount. So that's a nice, I'm really tickled. I am really pleased. This was a great job. The crew did a great job getting this ready. So here's one attached right to the tree. I mean, that's not going anywhere. And so this is in here for a while. Only thing with doing these on apple trees, you better have really good brand new staples, and even there's no guarantee. I had to end up using 3 staples here because these trees are so hard. That wood is as hard or harder than oak. And this is a 40-year-old tree. It's not very big, but it's super dense. If I were to cut this, you would see the rings are very close together. So it's really hard. When hammering, the staples actually they go in, they start, and then they flatten out. So that's the one with the most staples. I just left 2, banged the other one in, and that's it. This is the result of sometimes moving the wire. So if we rebuild and we pulled to tighten it, now this emitter was put in probably when it was over here somewhere. So, you know, 1.5 feet away from the tree, that's where I'd usually want it. But then when we pull this along, now this emitter happens to be really, it's a place where I'll look when it's running. Here's a good example of having pulled the pipes and the wires tighter. Here's one that is no longer in the right position. So that emitter now, and you can see what it's doing. It's falling right on the trunk. You think that's okay, you know, it's close. No, that will definitely rot the tree and it'll kill this tree. So this is one we have to goof plug and move the emitter a couple of feet over. I mean, water can kill a tree if the tree, because I irrigate every day, so if that drips on the trunk every day, all season for a couple of years, that decay will happen and the tree will die. So be careful where your emitters are. You think, well, when the tree is small, you think, well, you want it close, but you don't want it that close, no matter what. You still want it about 1 foot away. The roots will find it, and once they find it, they will expand in that spot. There'll be an area where you'll have more root growth, and you want that far enough away from the trunk for long term. Because now we have really cleared the bellies, or here's a little bit of one, but sometimes you get it really sagging low like this, and in this bottom is where you really get a lot of sediment buildup. Sometimes it doesn't really want to flush well.
Un peu flushy.
Let's flush and just show the color. You getting the color?
That's it.
Oh, it looks pretty clean. It may take a while to get to the end. So when flushing like that, what we do is, now if you pull your hand out a bit, and that's here, just hold it, fill it up, and just hold your hand away. And now look at it. So if we look and we'll see, actually that's clean already. Oh no, not totally clean. So when you hold your hand out, you can see whether it's clean or not. And if it's clean, then you know it, you can close it. Right now it still needs to flush for a while. So that will be kind of the final. We've tightened everything, and now we get to the end. Let's flush it, let it drain out. And it's time for some water break. Not just getting wet, but drinking some. Sweet, sweet, look at that. Intrigued? Check out the virtual tour of the Permaculture Orchard. Have trees already? Pruningcourse.com. Subscribe, please. Check out some of the other videos or playlists. There's more to come. Stay tuned. Bye.